Welcome back, Fashion here. That was some Grand Prix. Definitely an unexpected result, one that I did not see coming until about halfway through the race, roughly. So, Verstappen started on pole, Leclerc second. Most drivers were starting on the medium tire, but some were opting for alternative tires. So Bottas was on the soft, and then Magnussen, Ricciardo, Hamilton, and Alonso were all on the hard tires. Verstappen got a very good start, clean getaway, stayed in the lead of the race. Perez tried to go a bit aggressive at turn 1, but went a bit too deep and dropped down to P5. Let's see, Piastri also got a really good start, and he was up to P3. And then we got a really good battle between the Alpines in Sector 3, going almost wheel to wheel, that very tight and twisty section, and at various points I honestly thought they were going to crash into each other, but luckily for them and luckily for Team Morale, that wasn't the case. Lap 4, Piastri showing really good pace in his McLaren, kind of a harbinger of things to come, overtaking Leclerc for P2 at turn 17. A lap later, Russell then overtook Tsunoda for P9, Tsunoda getting a really good start, and both Mercedes getting a bit of an iffy start as well. Lap 7, Hamilton, probably having nightmares from his battle with Magnussen yesterday, now has to try to overtake the other Haas of Nico Hülkenberg. He manages to do it the first time on lap 7 for P7 at turn 11. But then Hamilton makes a mistake at turn 17, just goes a bit too deep, and allows Hülkenberg back in front. Luckily for Hamilton, the pace of his car is quite a bit better than their Haas, and he's able to re-overtake Hülkenberg on lap 10 at turn 1. Albon starts the pit cycle on that lap 10. A couple laps later, Russell, the other Mercedes, passes Hülkenberg as well to get up to P8. Lap 14, Norris was starting to put pressure on Perez in the Red Bull, showing that he had really strong pace. Lap 18, Perez pits, and he comes out in 11th. And this is really where things started to change in the race. Lap 20, Leclerc pits, comes back in 6th. Lap 21, Norris was setting fastest laps, fastest driver on track, faster than Verstappen even at this point. Leclerc then overtakes Hamilton for P5 at turn 11, so of course for Hamilton, for Leclerc, he had just pitted at this point, so on much fresher tires. Verstappen then hits the cone, basically the bollard, at the turn 15 chicane. Basically makes a small mistake, locks up, cuts the chicane. There's no penalty for this, obviously, because if you only do it one time, it's not a big deal. But basically, the bollard lands on his front wing, and he basically carries the bollard with him for a couple corners before basically coming off his car at turn 16, at the exit of turn 16. And then it basically just starts rolling onto the racing line. So they were forced to call VSC. Verstappen's front wing is okay, no damage there. I think he was pretty lucky that was the case. But yeah, we get a VSC, a very, very short one. But Ocon, Alonso, Magnussen all capitalize on it, and they all pit for new tires. So Alonso, who was, I think, three positions or so behind Stroll, Stroll had already pitted at this point, so just by doing that, Alonso basically came out in front of his teammate. Lap 24, Verstappen pits, comes out 4th, Russell pits as well. Lap 26, Alonso overtakes Hülkenberg for P14 at turn 11. Lap 27, Hamilton pits for medium tires. Lap 28, Piastri and Sainz pit, and they come out in 4th and 5th respectively. So at this point, Norris is leading the race, I believe, putting in really, really strong lap times, but hasn't pit yet. Then we got really the big turning point in the race. Magnussen and Sargent make contact at turn 3. Sargent basically, they both kind of spin out. Sargent hits the barriers. Car is not able to continue, and we get a safety car, but Magnussen was able to keep going. A bit of a tricky incident. Basically, they were going side by side through turns 2 and 3, and those are corners that you don't really traditionally overtake at, so I do think that the driver who is kind of going side by side trying to be aggressive, in this case Magnussen, because of course it was, probably should have used a bit more discretion. But that being said, Sargent basically just cut across him, didn't leave a car's width on the inside where Magnussen was. They were about halfway alongside, but at the same time, Magnussen probably should have backed out from that move. Tsunoda pits, comes out 7th, so he benefits massively from that safety car as well. Norris pits and he stays in the lead of the race. So at this point, Norris, who have been very, very fast in that first part of the race, not really able to do much, not able to overtake Perez, showing that the car was not that great in a straight line, I think, or just that the Red Bull was very, very strong in a straight line. But nonetheless, really strong pace from Norris. He benefits from that safety car quite a bit, and he stays in the lead. Magnussen was given a 10-second penalty, and I kind of missed what the reading that came up on the screen, but I made it sound like it was for a different incident, because later in the race they said that the incident between Magnussen and Sargent would be under investigation after the race. So it seems like there was a separate penalty for Magnussen there, which I guess just makes sense based on what we saw yesterday. Safety car, the safety car basically thinks Verstappen is still leading the race, because of course it does. And it basically comes out in front of Verstappen. So of course Norris is basically miles up the road, doing his own thing. And basically the safety car has to let everyone pass so that it can kind of tag back up with Norris in the front of the queue. So that probably added an extra lap to the safety car there. But the safety car does eventually end on lap 32. Verstappen gets a great restart, almost gets Norris at turn 1. And then, that's basically it there. Lap 34, Sainz tries to overtake Piastri at turn 11, isn't able to make it stick. Came on the radio, was very aggressive about the fact that he thought that he had been pushed wide, he was off track, but there was no further action for that. Let's see, where are we? Hamilton overtakes Tsunoda for P7 at turn 12. Lap 36, this was where Sainz was basically trying to convince Piastri to swap positions with him to make sure that he doesn't get a penalty, but of course they came out and said no further investigation, so that was just kind of a moot point. Lap 37, Norris at this point has built a 2.1 second gap to Verstappen, so Verstappen, despite being in what we would assume is the faster car, was not able to really make up ground on Norris. Lap 39, Verstappen says he can't get the car to turn, so really struggling with very low grip in the car. Lap 40, Sainz overtakes Piastri at turn 17, but kind of makes a muffin of the exit of the corner, and basically comes across and basically hits Piastri's front wing, damaging it there. Piastri tries to make the cutback and try to make the move at turn 1, but wasn't able to make it stick. And then shortly thereafter, he starts going very slowly, and he's overtaken by both Perez and Hamilton. And fortunately for Piastri, showing really strong pace in this race, he pits for a new front wing. Lap 42, the Norris-Verstappen gap has grown to 3.4 seconds. At this point, I was pretty confident that Norris was going to win the Grand Prix. Lap 47, Alonso trying to overtake Ocon, and then finally makes that stick the following lap, lap 48, for P9. Piastri, with his new front wing, moving his way through the field pretty nicely. Strong pace there, just really unfortunate for him. Lap 52, Stroll and Zhou overtake Albon, but Stroll did overtake Albon off track at turn 1, because of course he did, and that was for P13 and 14. So I vote Stroll probably getting a penalty, and I do believe, based on where he ended up in the post-race classification, that he did probably get a penalty for that. Lap 54, Albon's pretty miserable weekend gets even worse. He goes deep at turn 11 with a massive lockup, and he's basically plumb last. Final lap of the race, lap 57, Norris takes a checkered flag, takes his first ever Grand Prix win. Massive moment for him. Of course, his first win in F1, like I said. And Verstappen and Leclerc rounding out the podium. So your final result, Norris P1, Verstappen P2, Leclerc P3, Sainz P4, Perez P5, Hamilton P6. Really good points for Tsunoda in P7. Actually has an impact on the Drivers' Championship. We'll see that later. Russell P8, Alonso P9, and then Ocon. First points on the board for Alpine this year. Really good drive from him. Benefited a bit from the virtual safety car, but nonetheless was able to make the strategy work. Hulkenberg 11th, Gasly 12th, 13th, Piastri 14th, Zhou 15th, Ricciardo 16th, Bottas 7th, Stroll 18th, Magnussen 19th, Albon, and 20th was Logan Sargent, your 1 DNF. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Verstappen 136 points, continues to lead, builds his lead over Perez. 101 points for Perez, only 3 ahead of Leclerc with 98. Fourth is Sainz with 85, only 2 ahead of Norris, your race winner, with 83 points. Piastri, 41 points, almost half the points of, less than half of the points of his teammate Norris. But I think that doesn't really do justice to Piastri's start of the season, especially compared to last year. 7th is Russell with 37 points, Alonso 8th with 33, 9th is Hamilton with 27, and then Tsunoda actually overtakes Stroll in his Aston Martin in the Drivers' Championship, despite the fact that the Aston Martin is generally a much better car. 14 points for Tsunoda, and Stroll moves down to 11th with 9. 12th is Berman with 6 points, 13th is Hulkenberg with 6, 14th is Ricciardo with 5, and then Ocon moves ahead of Magnussen with his 1 point. And then 17th is Albon, Zhou, Gasly, Bottas, and Sargent, all on no points. So there you go. There's my review for the 2024 Miami Grand Prix. I guess the first driver to get his first win in the history of this channel. So I guess that's a good milestone to have, especially after the, I guess, relative bore fest that was the 2023 season in that respect. But yeah, nonetheless, really good race, I think, for Norris. Obviously, great moment, definitely a weight off his shoulders. Before this race, he had actually gotten the record for the most podiums without a win, taken that record from Nick Heidfeld. But of course, now with this win, Nick Heidfeld takes that record back, and Norris will definitely be glad about that. Yeah, definitely a really interesting race. I think the McLarens, through sprint qualifying, the sprint, and even through qualifying, there was definitely like glimpses where you could see that the McLarens really had really strong pace, but it didn't really come together. And here it was really, you really saw that pace kind of coming through. But that being said, without the safety car, I don't think Norris wins this race. And I think that the one thing that's really holding them back is the fact that they're really struggling to overtake other cars on track. We know that they're very good, they're a very high downforce car, but they struggle in a straight line. So that's something that they're definitely going to need to try to address going forward. But nonetheless, pretty interesting race, obviously unexpected result, which is always a good sign for a sport where I think, you know, a lot of people are quite sick of the constant Verstappen winning. So anyway, there you go. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.